much for tuning in again. I'm Melissa and this is Flourish in Faith, and today I'm going to be telling you an embarrassing story that happened in elementary school that God somehow turned good. Before we dive into that, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my latest videos. So without further ado, let's get on with today's video. So let me tell y'all something. 6th grade spelling bee was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. So it all started when I was walking the halls in 3rd grade, and I looked into this room that was like in my school. It was like this auditorium type thing, and I looked in and you could look down into it. And so when I looked down, I saw that there was tons of people in there, and I saw that they were having a spelling bee. So I was like, yes, I want to do that. So when I'm older, I'm going to do the spelling bee. So that's when it all started. So that is when I told my 9-year-old self that when I am allowed to, which is in 5th and 6th grade, that's when you're allowed to be in the spelling bee, that I was going to do it. And once I got into 5th grade, of course, and they had the sign-up papers for the spelling bee, I, of course, went up, signed up, and then you had to take this pre-test to make sure that you're at least a decent speller. So I took the test and I passed it, so clearly I'm a good speller, guys. Like, I'm a good speller, I promise. Get in, I'm accepted, and I'm all hyped. I'm like, I'm gonna win this thing. Actually, I don't think I was that confident, but I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. And so yeah, I thought it was gonna be totally fine. I was gonna get a hard word, then I would get out, right? I studied like it was nobody's business. Like every single night I was having like a flashlight under my sheets and I was like reading it, and I was just studying. I would close my eyes and I would try to spell the word. I would listen to the word. At school I would have my friends quiz me, and so I was ready. I knew how to spell every single word, even ichthyosaurus, guys. Ichthyosaurus is a dinosaur, and I knew how to spell it, and I think I can still spell it. Ichthyosaurus. So my family, my dad would read off words, my brother would read off words. Everyone was making sure that I was ready. So the big day came where we would go to the auditorium, and that's where the spelling bee would happen. So parents came, so many parents came, and all the 5th, 6th grade teachers were there, and all the 5th and 6th graders were there, including the spelling bee people, and I was one of them. So we were all there. It was a crowded room. My family was even like recording me. Like, it was a big deal. So there is footage of me in the spelling bee, but no one's ever gonna see that because of what's coming next. So there were 3 judges, and my fellow competitors were right next to me. I kind of start to low-key freak out. You know that feeling when all your bones are weak inside and you just start to, like, you know, tremble and get really scared? Well, that was me. I was starting to get super weak, and my stomach was doing flips inside. Felt like I had a bajillion butterflies. So I was not feeling okay. I was freaking out inside, and I get nervous chills, so I was freezing. So I must have looked so funny, but I tried to keep my cool, tried to stay calm and collected, and remember all the studying that I did. So one of the teachers, the teacher who was like the announcer lady, she's like, all right, next. And then I go up to the microphone. I was like the 7th person to go for our first word. And our first word, we had to first spell our names. So you'd say like Melissa, M-E-L-I-S-S-A, Melissa. So you had to say the word, spell it, then say the word again, and then they'd say if you spell it right or not, and then you go back to your seat. So we did that practice round of just saying your name. Then our first words were really easy. So I get up to the microphone for the 2nd time. I'm like, okay, got this. This is my first real word. Gonna be so easy. So the lady says, all right, Melissa, your word is world. So I'm like, all right, world, W-O-R-L-D, world. And then all the judges are like, yeah, good job. They hold up a green card because I did it good. I did it right. So I'm like, yes. And then I go and sit down. Okay, just wait. Then like all the rest of the people obviously spell their word right because it's the easiest round. Then I go up to the mic for the third time, and this time this is my second word, and the teacher is like, all right, Melissa, your another word is invitation. All right, guys, so inside I'm like, how do you spell that word again? So I know invitation is invitation, but I, for some reason, in that moment, since I was so freaking out, I thought I made up a new word. It's called inventation. And so I spelled it like that. The judges hold up a red card, and I'm like, oh, I did it wrong. But I kind of knew that I did it wrong because I was like, inventation. Wait, why did I spell it like that? And you can't restart and you can't go back. So I got out. Okay? So that was really terrible, really embarrassing. On my second word, I got out. Invitation, so easy peasy, right? So at this point, I wasn't really like Christian, so I was just like really sad. I was just like, okay, whatever. I can try again next year. Of course, it's sad and embarrassing, but I'll redeem myself next year. I was just really nervous. So I was telling everyone, I'm just really nervous. So that gets over with, guys. It gets worse. So the next year, guys, I'm like 6th grade. Here we go. I'm going to get first place. I was confident this time because I was like, you know, I've been in front of the crowd. I'm all good. It's all fine. So, 6th grade rolls around. My little brother even enrolls in the spelling bee because he's a year younger than me. So, 5th and 6th graders, we're both up there. I put on my favorite outfit again. Like after I took the pre-test, got accepted into there. I was really happy, and I learned how to spell the word. Studied so much you wouldn't even believe it. And like everything's the same again. I'm in the same position. My brother's there in the spelling bee competition with me. Same amount of people there, and this time it's higher stakes because I lost last time, and this is my last time I'll be able to do a spelling bee. I get nervous again, and my bones start to like become jello, and I get super nervous. So I'm like, not again. We're not doing this again. I can see my friends in the stands, and they're like, you got this, you can do this. So I was like, okay, I got this. I forgot to mention though, right before this big spelling bee, like a day before, we did a class spelling bee where there was only like 20 people inside the class because in the auditorium it was all of the grade, but in the class it was only like 20 people. So I was in the little group where we did the little spelling bee practice thing, and I got first place. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do so good. Even though I might be nervous, I'm gonna do so great. And we spelled our names again, and then first words come up. So this is my first time walking up to the microphone of my 6th grade spelling bee. This is my first real word. So the teacher tells me, your word is mulch. I can't even. I go, mulch. M-U-L-S-H. And I'm like, mulch. I wasn't paying attention because I was freaking out in myself, but I was also trying to see the word in my head. So instead of saying a C, I said an S for mulch. And so at that moment, I thought I spelled it right. So after I spelled that word wrong, I look over at the judges' table where they hold up the cards, and they hold up red cards. I'm like, what? I literally audibly say that into the microphone. I'm like, what? And I like walk out all confused. Embarrassing. I walk out of the spelling bee room because that's what you do when you lose. But I was confused. I was like, what? And then I realized it. I was like, oh, wait, I said that. And so I started crying. I started crying outside of the auditorium, and there was this teacher there that saw me crying. I was like, oh my goodness, I spelled mulch wrong. That is the most embarrassing moment of my life. I do not want to be here anymore. So once I was done like talking to the teacher, and she's like, oh, you got it wrong, and then she hugged me or whatever, and then I walked, and I did not go back into the auditorium. After you are done with the spelling bee and you lose, you're supposed to go back into the auditorium and sit down in the stands and watch the rest of the spelling bee. I did not want to do that. I did not want anyone to see my face ever again. So I like went around in the school and I found an empty stairwell and I just sat there and I was like, oh my goodness. And at this time, like, I wasn't Christian still, really Christian, and I like wasn't praying. But now if that happened, I'd be like, God, please take me now. But at that time I was like, no, I can't let anyone see me. Like, that is terrible. How am I gonna face all my friends, my family, my brother? He's probably gonna do better than me at the spelling bee. So yeah, I was there, and then I all of a sudden hear footsteps, and I'm like, oh no, someone's coming. So I get up, gotta face the world, and so I turn the corner so I can see whoever's walking, because they were like probably coming for me. And it was my teacher, and she was like crying herself. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. She was like also laughing. She's like, it's okay, it's fine. And she's like, I could totally feel your feelings. And I was like, aw. And then I looked past her, and there is my brother, who was in the spelling bee, but he was coming with my dad, and my whole family was walking towards me while I was with my teacher too. And so I just felt this overwhelming sense of support because my teacher and my family were all there with me, and they were like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, and they were like supporting me and making me feel so much better. And so that embarrassing moment was unbelievable. Like, standing there spelling the word mulch wrong for the second year in a row, getting out in like one of the first 2 rounds. So embarrassing, guys. So but in that moment, I felt so much support from my family and so much love from everybody that even though I was a terrible speller in the spelling bee and I got so nervous and I made a fool of myself, they still supported me and they were so sweet. And so I asked my brother, like, why are you here? And he's like, oh, I got out. And he was laughing. He wasn't even crying. He was just laughing. He's like, oh yeah, I got out. And I was like, what word? And he goes, thirst. He got out on the word thirst, and it's all cool because he was laughing about it. And then guess what happened? My brother went into the 6th grade spelling bee and he got 3rd place, I'm pretty sure, which is incredible because there's like 12 people in it. So he spelled some really amazing words right. So he doesn't really have that fear, I guess. Wow. And he really showed me up. So he did amazing. My family just supported me, and my teachers are all supportive, and they're so nice. And afterwards, they're like, hey, good job in spelling bee. I'm like, yeah, right. And they're like, no, actually, you did great even being there. So I was like, aw, thanks. So, and still to this day, like 4 years later, I still get made fun of for that. Which I think it's hilarious because people still walk by me and they're like, mulch. And I'm like, thanks. And it's a funny story that I'm able to tell everyone. Now, how did God turn that story for good for me? Because it seems like, yeah, there's these little good things, but still that embarrassing moment is still there. So how did God turn that for the better for me? In that experience, God was working for me, even though I wasn't in a good relationship with him at all. He was still working for me and giving me that good thing, because I feel like that experience, I wouldn't be the same person, because I am able now to laugh at myself. I am able to have a good time thinking about experiences, and I am a storyteller now. I love to tell stories. I love to share my experiences with other people, and I also love to have funny icebreakers, like funny facts to bring up to people. So when you meet new people, you're able to be like, yeah, I spelled mulch wrong in a spelling bee in 6th grade. And a year before that, I spelled the word invitation wrong. So they're like, what? And it's hilarious. And it makes me feel like special. I have this special little story of mine that's embarrassing but funny. It makes other people laugh. And also, I learned so much about the value of support and people who love you and care about you, and that they'll support you in any time that you embarrass yourself. So I learned so much in that situation, and I am so grateful, believe it or not, that I totally butchered 2 of my elementary school spelling bees. So if you guys ever go through any really embarrassing experience, try to believe that it is God who is giving you that experience for a really good reason. Because in Romans 8:28, one of my favorite verses, it says that God works for the good of those who love him. So in everything, God works for the good of those who love him. If you love and trust God, God will turn your bad experiences, the bad things that happen to you in your life, for the better, for the good. And I believe that. So you guys too. Also, if you have any embarrassing stories that you would like to share in the comments down below, please comment it down below. I would love to hear you guys' funny stories. Maybe you were in a spelling bee and you spelled something wrong, or maybe something totally different. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and listening to my hilarious and embarrassing story of when I spelled my first word wrong, mulch, in the 6th grade spelling bee. So thank you guys so much. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click the notification bell if you enjoyed this video. Yeah, that's it. Bye guys.